Morning everyone, my name is Ian Dean, owner and proprietor of Health and Happiness Personal Training. Got a topic today, a little bit different to what we've done last few times. Recently we've been looking at guidelines for adults and children. We've actually been looking at the difference between cardiovascular and resistance training and how they both play a part in being healthy and ensuring good weight control. And then we went into some more detail about resistance training, looking at different ways that you can train, things like trisets, pyramid sets, giant sets, supersets, pre and post exhaustion. Excuse me. So today we're going to look at marketing. So we're going to specifically be looking at food labelling. I suppose the first thing to say is that it is actually law. All countries have to label their food, and it has to be accurate. The only difference in this is things that is made on the day. So you might go to some cafes or patisseries or whatever and see that things that are made on the day, maybe some sandwiches, paninis, etc., won't have food labelling. And I think that's primarily because one, they are quite small outfits, but also depending upon the combination of the mixes, there will be different sort of statistics, different sort of amounts within each product. Whereas anything that's made sort of by a sort of commercial sort of mass outfitter would have a label. The most simplest thing is things like the traffic light labelling. Obviously, I think most people would be familiar with this. You've got red, amber, green. Basically, you should be trying to avoid foods that are red. These should be cut out of your diet. Or if you do still want to consume these, then obviously be aware that by consuming something that is red, say on fat, then you need to be really tightly controlled and have excellent discipline for the rest of the day. Then you have amber. These are things that can creep up. So if you have a number of ambers during the day, that will mean that you're more likely to exceed your daily limit. Whereas green is actually good, so you can have that. Obviously, it doesn't mean that you can just continuously consume greens because with portion control and the amount that you eat, you can still actually put on weight if you consume foods that is primarily green. Everything in moderation. So try and avoid the reds and the ambers. So specifically look at things like fats, sugars and salt. I suppose the next thing to mention is trans fat. The trans fat is something that has been hydrogenated. This is then the product that is produced as a result of that. Now, trans fats didn't really exist until a number of decades ago because things were actually consumed very close in terms of days from when it was actually produced or picked or harvested or killed. So trans fats are actually something that's added to food. It's got no nutritional benefits. It's something that's added to food as a preservative. So this is something that will keep the product on the shelf for longer. So that is something that's been added by the fast moving consumer goods industry in a way of actually being able to stock their shelves and keep the product there for longer. So these are things that are they think very carcinogenic and have really bad health disbenefits. The one thing to also note that they probably are also referred to, excuse me, as hydrogenated vegetable oils. These people are very clever. They will refer to things in different ways. So yeah, just be very wary of that. Also be very wary when people start to mention on products things like healthy terms like I'm just trying to look at some like honey, etc. Because you can actually read a marketing material, a packet or something, can actually think it is actually healthy, but then underneath that there will actually be some additional sugars, etc. So just be very wary when you look at that. So going on again to the traffic light system, you actually have a few things that are very pertinent. So things around fats, things around sugar, things around salt, things around fibre. So from a green perspective, you would say that anything less than 3 grams of fat would actually be a green. Anything more than 17.5 grams of fat would be a red. And also underneath fats, it will actually break down into saturated fats. So less than 1.5 grams of saturated fats is a good choice, so that would be green. More than 5 grams would actually be a red, so stay away from that. Again, sugar, we can only really have additional sugar of 30 grams per day as an adult. There will be sugar in majority of food, so within fruit, within even bread, within a lot of things. So it's additional sugar that you need to worry about. So again, total sugar, anything less than 5 grams would be a green, and anything more than 22.5 grams would be a red. And bear in mind that if you're taking something that's say 22.5 grams of sugar, you're almost around sort of 75-80% of your daily sugar allowance. So be mindful of that. Anything less than 0.3 grams of salt would be a green, and anything more than 1.5 grams would be a red. And obviously salt, one of the cheapest flavourings, cheapest sort of condiments, so people will add that to products alongside sugar to make you more likely to like the taste, and salt has direct consequence to things like high blood pressure, etc. Very confusing because salt and sugar, they sort of alternate in terms of which one is the enemy, but I would say that both of them are actually things that you need to moderate. If you do like salt and do like sugar, then start to actually decrease the amount. So if you've got 2 teaspoons of salt of sugar in your tea, then maybe go down to 1.5, then go down to 1, then go down to half, and also look at other things that you can add to your tea to actually sweeten it. So things like honey, even though that is sugar, there are other benefits of honey, and even flavouring. So maybe put lemon in your tea. That would be a good way of taking away that bitterness. And the key thing as well is don't sweeten things or salt things until you've tasted them, because you might actually find that you can actually tolerate it and over time enjoy it. I think it takes about 25 days to change your taste buds, so just persevere. And then the last one to look at is fibre. Fibre is something that will retain water, will fill up your stomach, and will keep you less hungry for longer. Because unlike something that will, like sugar, that will spike in your blood, fibre is actually a good one to actually keep your blood constant. So the last thing to mention before I wrap up is around a little bit more mathematical way of actually interpreting labels. So protein is actually 3 kilojoules of energy per gram, and also fat is 9, and carbohydrates again is 3. So if you've got something that is 70 kilocalories of energy, all you've got to do then, if say for example there's 3 grams of fat, 3 times 9 is 27. 27 divided by the 70 is 0.385. Now if you times that by 100, you'll actually then get the percentage. So in this example of 70 kilocalories overall and 3 grams of fat, you can actually work out that this is 38.5% of fat. So that is actually quite an interesting way of actually interpreting that. I will actually on my Facebook page, on the Health and Happiness Facebook page, put down this example, because I think it's something that is important to look at physically. So, in terms of wrapping up, by law, people have actually got to put on their packets the food labelling. There is the traffic light system that is designed to be simple and visual. Be wary of some of the health claims. Some of them might not be substantiated, so they can mislead the consumer. By using the example calculation that I just mentioned, you should be able to work out the percentage of energy contributed by fats, carbohydrates and proteins. One thing I didn't mention but useful here is that the ingredient list on food packaging is actually in descending order. So the ones that are at the top are actually the most. So I would look at the top 3 would be a good thing. It's not essential to eliminate fat from your diet because there are other sort of health benefits of fat, but just make sure that you include a balance of low fat within your diet. Trans fat are the enemy. They might also appear as hydrogenated vegetable oils, so try and actually reduce these and eliminate them from your diet. Processed foods, fast foods, they might contain high proportions of fat, simple sugars and salt that are added, so think pepperoni, think salami, so try and avoid them, and try and actually reduce the amount of fast processed foods to a minimum within your diet. So my name is Ian Dean, owner and proprietor of Health and Happiness Personal Training. I will be back some point next week. So have a lovely day. Bye.